I feel that there is a division among those advisors on whether or not to try to reach out again to North Korea. So the verdict is mixed. And I'm doubtful that Kim Jong-un is going to be very eager to return to having meetings with President Trump unless he sees some tangible benefit. Based on his comments in the campaign, I imagine that he may try to reopen the issue of, I don't think it'll be easy to reopen the existing negotiations that were just concluded, the SMA negotiations. But I can imagine that there might be other ways in which some kind of deal could be fashioned around the issue of Korean support for U.S. troop presence on the Korean Peninsula. China is emerging as a higher priority, and I believe that it's also a higher priority within the U.S.-South Korea alliance. And I do think there is a lot of focus on the question of what would the impact of a potential conflict with China be on U.S. alliances and U.S. force posture in the region, especially in the context of a cross-strait conflict. But I do not think that this necessarily means a lessening of prioritization of force presence in South Korea. Well, clearly the relationship with Russia has become a very important relationship for Kim Jong-un. But I also feel that this particular relationship is a product of the desperation that both sides may face in terms of their own domestic challenges. Yes, this is what I call Kim Jong-un foreign policy 2.0. Kim Jong-un has been trying to use the relationship with Russia to make Russia a protector of North Korea and a shield from any kind of sanctions through the UN. And as we see in the UN Security Council, sanctions against North Korea and the experts committee has essentially been dismantled. So I do think that the focus of Kim Jong-un is on gaining legitimacy for his nuclear status, and that his partnership with Russia is a way of doing that, and that he is less interested in having dialogue with the United States as a result. I think the effects of conflict on the erosion of the nuclear non-proliferation norm and the risk in particular that Putin or Kim Jong-un could decide to violate the norm of non-use of nuclear weapons in ways that would have, I think, catastrophic effects and enormous costs to the international community. And could mark a major change across the world as we deal with the contamination and other effects of nuclear use.
My guess is he will not do anything dramatic immediately. On foreign policy, actually, in many ways, Donald Trump is very cautious about the military and war. He avoided pretty carefully going to war against Iran in 2019 when Iran launched a very serious attack against Saudi Arabian oil facilities. And so I don't agree with people who think Trump is immediately going to launch an attack on Iran. I don't. Maybe he will later, but I don't think it would be immediate. I can imagine that Donald Trump will look favorably, for example, on more settlements being established in the West Bank. He will be as helpful as Israel wants him to be with respect to military relations, supply of equipment, intelligence sharing. I think Trump will push for greater integration of Israel economically and militarily into the region. So whether that's trade relations or whether it's beginning to have exercises and military planning between Israel and some particularly Arab Gulf states to counter Iran. I can imagine all of those things in a Trump administration. And so he will look at the Middle East and say, well, the Israelis are really strong. Why don't the Saudis and the Israelis work together? Or why don't the Emiratis and the Israelis work together? Donald Trump is not a person who thinks very hard about the history of conflicts in other parts of the world or the political challenges that other leaders face in their own countries. I think it will make it ever harder to find a durable solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I can imagine, for example, that there will be greater pressure on Palestinian communities in the West Bank to leave the West Bank. They can't go to Jordan. The Lebanese don't want them. The Syrians don't want them. Where would they go? Not clear. Would they try to go to Europe? I don't know. But I can imagine that the Israel-Palestine conflict, there'll be no movement towards a durable solution. With respect to other Middle Eastern states in Israel, I'm sure that Donald Trump will encourage Saudi Arabia to normalize relations. I think Trump actually would like to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. I noticed that every few weeks, Donald Trump says something about how he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And he's disappointed still that he didn't get one after his role mediating normalization agreements between 3 Arab states and Israel, the Abraham Accords. Somehow him not getting that Nobel Prize, it just kind of hurts his pride a little bit. So I can imagine that just as he reached out to North Korea, I could imagine he would reach out to the Iranian leadership to try to restart talks. It's a different question as to how the Iranian government will react. That I don't know. I also must say, if Trump were to open negotiations again, nuclear negotiations with Iran, interestingly, he would not get very much opposition here in the United States because he very much controls the Republican Party. And no one in the Republican Party is going to criticize him for doing it. And the Democrats always say they prefer diplomacy with respect to achieving a solution to the Iranian nuclear program.
북한은 무엇을 필요할까요? 북한은 초체돈이다. 파병병 4만 명이면 1년 동안 북한 군대가 1억 달러 정도 벌 수 있다. 북한 기준으로 큰 돈이에요. 둘째, 그 군사 기술이다. 지금 북한은 파병까지 하고 러시아 지지율을 보호하고 있기 때문에 북한은 러시아를 설득하고 러시아 정부를 설득하고 받기 어려운 그 군사 기술의 이전을 요구할 것 같습니다. 구체적으로 무슨 기술인지 모르지만 예를 들면 잠수함, 무기, 미사일 등 이와 같은 기술이 받을지 모르지만 바로 파병 때문에 받을 가능성이 높아졌습니다. 셋째는 전투장 경험이다. 북한은 70여 년 동안 싸운 적이 없다. 그 때문에 그들은 진짜 전투의 경험을 받은 것은 진짜 좋아요. 그들의 입장에서. 네. 그래서 세 개의 이유가 있다고 생각합니다. 돈, 군사 기술, 그리고 전투 경험이다. 여전히 군사 동맹에 대한 기록 남아있을 겁니다. 하지만 제가 보니까 전쟁 후 러브 관계가 많이 멀어지기 시작한 가능성이 높습니다. 기본 이유는 경제이다. 우리는 러시아와 북한이 경제의 특징을 본다면 무엇일까? 흐물하게 호환성이 없습니다. 북한은 국제 시장으로 잘 수출할 수 있는 항목이 그리 많지 않아도 있어요. 예를 들면 수산물, 석탄, 철광석 등 지하자원 등입니다. 그러나 러시아는 북한이 국제 시장에서 잘 팔 수 있는 항목에 대해 수요가 없다. 수요가 없다고 할 수 있습니다. 이게는 위험해지고 있습니다. 우크라이나 전쟁 교훈 중에 하나는 21세기에서 이 오늘날도 전쟁이 가능합니다. 저도 비슷했는데 그 전쟁은 옛날 것이고 옛날 것, 시대착오적인 것이라고 생각했습니다. 그러나 그렇지 않을 수도 있습니다. 세계는 다시 위험해지고 있습니다. 한국은 아주 안전한 생활에 익숙했습니다. 그러나 이러한 생활 방식은 지속 가능한 것입니까? 알 수 없습니다. 그렇지 않을 수